Okay, so today I want to show a small project I'm working on. It's a small game engine using Pygame, and although there isn't much to show right now because I'm mostly structuring the project, there are some neat features that I wanted to show, and that is regarding Pygame's Sprite, some of its Sprite features, including the grouping and the collision detection, as well as a lot of the methods that can be activated by the group instead of having to do individual sprite calls. So right now I've created a basic entity class which is derived from the sprite, and I created two kind of objects, if you will. One are items, which I just created to show the collision detection, and the other one are the consumables. And the cool feature that I found is that, for example, if I wanted to have maybe some sprites that have a certain collision box, but maybe I need a second collision box to maybe allow the user to interact with that item. And right here, instead of having to create two different objects, in the collision detection methods, which is the sprite collide, I can use the object as the collision object, but I can also call a separate and basically a different collision method using the same object or group. So as you can see right here, first, for the detection itself, for the collision of the player and the items in this sprite group, I'm using the standard collision detection, which we use the rect object, which the object must contain. And the second collision type is to allow the user to interact. So if the user or if the object is just nearby these items, not necessarily having to collide with the rectangle that defines that object. And for that I used a simple collide circle, and you can set a custom circle for that object, but by default Pygame will create a circle that will surround the object or the sprite you're checking for the collision. And the cool thing about this method is that it returns a list with all of the objects that return true, meaning that they do collide with the object you're testing against. And that makes it very easy for you to, maybe you don't care which objects are colliding, you're just concerned with the collision, and so which is what I do right here. So for, let's say, a movement collision, I don't care which object it is colliding right now, I just want to know if it is colliding so that I can adjust the movement. But I do also have the option of getting any of the sprites contained in that collision detection. And I wanted to show because this feature is really useful, and it is something that in previous projects when I used Pygame I didn't have this feature, and if I show you afterwards the difference in code, it is quite incredible. So right now I'm gonna run the little demo that I created showing how these features work. And so right now you should be able to see the little demo that I created, and I'm just taking the window output not all, and I'm also just rendering at a lower resolution, but I'm gonna increase so that maybe it's easier to see. And this is the interesting part that I wanted to show. So right here I basically created 10 objects. So the blue ones are the collision, for the collision detection and interaction, and the green ones are what I called consumables, just to show two different parts of that collision detection. And one thing you can do is just check for collision, like I'm doing in these blue boxes, and every time I try to move down, it will readjust so that it won't allow for the objects to move one over the other. But the other argument that you have for the collision detection function is that you can actually choose to kill that sprite and remove it from the group without any hassle. The collision function will do that for you. So right here I'm gonna move over the green objects, and each time I do, it will automatically remove from the group, and the removed sprites won't be rendered, of course. Right here, the blue one, I cannot move over it, but if I'm nearby it and I press an interaction key, you can see that I can interact with that object even though I'm not necessarily over it. And as I explained before, you can customize this collision method to basically improve how you want it to be, but that's all done in that callback from the collision detection function. So again, it isn't much, but I just thought I would show these cool features from Pygame and their Sprite grouping. Also, another part that I didn't really show, and maybe I can show right now, is that for each of the groups, as you can see, you can call this draw function. And what that will do is that it will automatically bleed, so it will draw all of the sprites containing the group directly into the surface that you want. So once again, this grouping feature is really amazing, and it's something that has been helping me a lot in the development of this application. And I guess that's it. There isn't much more right now that I wanted to show, but I wanted to point out because I just thought this was a really nice feature. So yes, see you in the next one.